Okay, I hope everyone can see and hear me. This is actually my first conference, so I'm a bit nervous. My research is the effects of virtual museums on navigational processes, and I have done this research with a teacher of mine from Istanbul Technical University who was a co-writer. My presentation, so I will first introduce my research and the concept of navigation and kinetic and cognitive processes in virtual space. And then I will talk about my method and my tasks. And then I will present my results and the discussion. So as we know, virtual technologies are advancing a lot, especially the last decade. And what they actually try to do is they try to aim for a lifelike experience to imitate the processes that take place in a physical space. Just in the physical world, spaces formed by interconnected areas bring the necessity of navigation in space. Actually makes up my research question, which is what are the effects of virtual museum tools on kinetic and cognitive processes of the users while they're navigating in virtual space? When we look at the concept of navigation, we see two processes. The first one being the cognitive process, which has the wayfinding and orientation concepts. And the next one is the kinetic process, where we actually travel to the destination physically. And when we look at these processes in virtual space, we can see some slight changes. For example, teleportation, which is when we click on a link, we get teleported to another space in a second, which doesn't actually happen in physical space. And when we look at this virtual museum in Troya Virtual Museum, which was produced by the company MATTERPORT, we can actually see this, for example, this red matter tag that's embedded in this environment. And if you click on any of these links, it teleports you to another area inside the museum. And studies that have been done before, for example, by Bauman, says that teleportation may prevent the user from forming a cognitive map because it may obstruct orientation. And we will see about this in my tasks too. And another thing is that inside the virtual museum, we can see actually narrower degrees. So this reveals the need to turn constantly and all the time, which may again obstruct orientation, as has been found by previous research. And apart from cognitive tools, we can also see kinetic tools inside this Troya Virtual Museum, which is motion in various directions. We can do rotations, sweeping, or we can do zooming normally, but inside this virtual space, the zooming tool is not available. And we will see how this affects the user. So if I can tell you more about these tools inside the virtual museum, we can see an axonometric plan. We can see floor plans, but on the floor plan, the user's location is indicated with a very small dot, red dot, and it's not really comprehensible. And other than that, we have a floor selection tool, which actually makes a vertical elevator-like movement towards the vertical axis whenever you click on a floor. And other than that, we can see, as I have mentioned, the red matter tag or the purple matter tag. And this purple matter tag actually gives information about the objects inside the museum. And other than this, we can actually notice the boundaries of the museum. So the image under the tools, you can see actually the physical museum is much wider, but the virtual space is only limited to this red marked area. Sorry, I think my connection. I'm trying to go over the slides. Okay. My methodology is I have done this research with 20 participants on one complete them to share their screen while they were doing. I can also get observational data from this research. I also got the data collection from participant answers and verbal data. As you can see, I have 4 tasks, and each task actually is trying to measure a primary navigational process like cognitive map formation, wayfinding, kinetic processes, or orientation. I will briefly explain each task, and then I will present my results and the discussion. So the first task was I wanted the participants to mark their point of departure on a map. And so as you can see, the point of departure in the figure, but as I have told you, the boundaries of the virtual environment is limited only, so it doesn't go towards the entrance, it only has a view of the entrance. And the general strategy used by the participants when they were trying to find their starting point on the map was to determine the entrance first. But because they couldn't move towards the entrance, they had to compare their direction to the entrance. And the results revealed the tendency of the participants to position themselves towards the entrance, because as you can see the results in the figure, actually a lot of participants located themselves at the entrance. They thought their departure point was actually the entrance. The user's perception of the departure point is predicted to be of great importance in means of cognitive map formation. The fact that the virtual museum has chosen an undefined location as a point of departure for the 3D walkthrough has negatively affected the cognitive map formation, since the participants had difficulty in detecting their location. My second task was asking them to find a room which is marked in the first image. So they had to go through this route and then reach the room. And then part of the task was trying to get information about this Troya Gold's room, which is located on the left panel at the entrance of the museum, or inside the purple matter tag in the room. So finding the room required intensive use of rotation, forward and backward movement, and each participant tried to read the panels located on the sides of the route as a visitor would do in a physical museum. But because I have told you that the Zoom tool does not work, they couldn't actually read the panels because they couldn't get close to the panels. And as a second result was that 14 people out of 20 had passed by the room without noticing the entrance. And participants stated that the entrance of the room was not comprehensible at all and needed to be emphasized. And as you can see from these percentages, the usage of the left panel was much higher in getting information compared to the usage of the purple matter tag inside the room, which actually shows that just as in the physical museum, the participants actually wanted to get information through reading the panels. And these two tasks are the last ones, and I would like to compare them actually. The third task is the participants using the floor selection tool, which I have told you, it does a vertical movement towards the vertical axis without changing the orientation of the user. However, the fourth task actually teleports the user. The red matter tag teleports the user to another space inside the museum, and it also changes orientation as well. And I actually wanted to compare how these two different kinds of movements would affect the orientation and the cognitive map formation of the users. And as you can see in the first image, the correct direction was mostly marked by the participants, but after teleportation, we can see that most of the participants actually lost their orientation towards the north or the west directions. And as the conclusion, the field study results showed that the tools remained insufficient in fully satisfying the cognitive and kinetic processes required for users to navigate in the environment. And also, it has been observed that the participants consulted cognitive tools whenever kinetic tools became insufficient. Thus, the cognitive and kinetic tools regularly supported each other, which was a main finding of the research. And I also wanted to put some recommendations towards virtual museum spaces. The conducted research revealed the importance to fully perceive the entrance of an environment in order to fulfill the purposes of navigation. The importance of expanding the limits of the virtual environment to include the entrance of the museum has become crucial for the formation of a cognitive map. And the second point is the floor plan tool can be improved by replacing an unperceivable red dot with a more attractive mark indicating the user's location in space. The purple matter tag has been found to be beneficial in terms of accessing knowledge because it was an additional tool for accessing information. For the text to be fully comprehensible, though, the signage I, like info, could be placed inside the dot that indicates the purpose of the tool, because most of the participants couldn't really understand that this tool was going to give them additional information. And the fourth point is the necessity of the zoom tool has also been revealed, especially in museum spaces where the legibility of the panels is crucial. And the last point is out-of-sight objects, just like the room, may require an additional indication that draws the attention of the users, such as an animated arrow. And thank you for listening. I can take questions if there is any.